Good evening. Welcome to the Miller Theater. I'm so happy to see almost a full house. I think a week ago we were still worried. We had like maybe 40 signed up, and I know many of you signed up last minute, and we're just happy to have you all here on this evening for this this really fantastic program that I've been looking forward to. And we were talking about the title. Maybe we could have made it more positive, but I don't know how else we could have made Elena. I don't know how else we could have made it more positive. But still, despite the title, you're all here because I think it's a topic that is of concern to all of us, and we're just so happy that thanks to CNN, Elena, thank you. We're always happy. I think this is the second or third time we partner, and we hope to do more of these type of partnership in the near future. This is what Asia Society is about. It's about education. Afterward, we'll have a post screening discussion from the three filmmakers, Ivan Watson, Rebecca Wright, and Thomas Booth. We're really looking forward to hearing from them about the experience of making this film. And I wanted to just kind of take a poll. How many of you are members of Asia Society? Okay, not yet, and there's about 20%. Great, I'm glad to see that. And how many of you, it's the first time in the Miller Theater? I can't believe, after 12 years, you guys are still new, and many of you are saying you're here for the first time. We want to thank Mr. Robert Miller, Pia, please send Bob our regards. It's because of supports like Mr. and Mrs. Miller, the Chantel Miller Gallery, and the Miller Theater. We have been showing movies. We've been doing programs in this wonderful space for the last 12 plus years, almost 13, coming up in February. So if you're a project, and we also have done work, work in progress. So if there's a project that you're happy to share with us, please contact us. We were really happy to hear from you because our members really enjoy programs like this, and they also in fact, I think the Q&A is going to be really interesting because some of the best questions come from our members in our audience, so I'm looking forward to that. So with that, I'm just going to again welcome you all and consider becoming a member of Asia Society. We really need your help. And if you saw the scaffolding coming up and that Miller in my office, that was the old lab. Thanks to the government, we got a grant. We're fixing it up. And it's because of all the typhoons we've had. And this last couple of years with the typhoon and the torrential rain, these old buildings need upkeep. And after 13 years moving in here, thanks to the government grants and support from our members and all of you, we can keep Asia Society Hong Kong going. And in times like this, I think an organization like us is more important than ever, whether you're talking about geopolitical conflicts, climate crisis, and all of that. All of the topics are topics that we have worked on very hard with students, with the community. So I think your support is very much needed. So with that, I'm just going to roll the film and then stay tuned for the wonderful post-screening discussion afterward. So thank you. Thank you for all being here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Ivan, and this is the team that we worked on this project together that we just got to screen for you. So Bex Wright and Tom Booth. And those are my reading glasses. So thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too depressing. We tried to end that on a somewhat positive note because I don't think the experience that we had was wholly kind of... there were signs of hope as we were kind of filming this project. I'd like to thank the Asia Society for hosting us here. For Alice, wonderful that you've given us this amazing spot to kind of occupy for a little while. I've never been here. It's a sprawling, amazing facility, and I look forward to exploring it more. We're going to go to questions to you guys, but just a few notes about this particular project. First of all, to introduce ourselves, we are not climate reporters, we're not climate scientists. We are a field team, news team. So more often we would be out reporting on elections or plane crashes or conflicts or natural disasters. So this was a rare chance for us to do a longer report. And our goal was to take a look at this climate change crisis that the planet is facing right now. And one of the challenges of that when you're working in news is that you're doing bits of this here and there, right? You're doing, oh, there's a flood here and it's terrible, and there was an earthquake, but pulling a narrative together is difficult to do in what is a very fast-paced news agenda. And so one of the challenges here was to try to build some kind of a narrative. And this was very much what Bex was able to do as a senior field producer. This was her mastermind project, kind of trying to link these disparate events that were taking place in a huge country into a concrete story. The next challenge of this, I think, or the way we approached it as a news team, was to go in and say, okay, we had interviews lined up, but we didn't know quite what we were going to see. We're not experts on Australia. I've been there now maybe 3 times. I don't know how many times you guys have been there. But we approached this kind of like a news story. We're going to show up and we did interview research ahead of time, and we're going to show up and meet people and learn this story as we go along. And so that's what we've then kind of concluded with this special that we have here. A final point that I want to bring out for you guys is that when you typically watch a documentary made by National Geographic or BBC Earth or what have you, there is a much larger team putting this together with a much larger budget, with much more time. And we did this, how long were we filming? 2 weeks? 2 weeks that we put this together. So this really was a scrappy project of 3 people. We had a freelance scuba diver, but a lot of those underwater pictures were filmed by Tom. He edited most of this project, and Mun, hey! Mun also edited a big chunk of this. So this was a project of a handful of people to put something like this together. And so we're delighted we're getting this chance to show it to you right now. I'm going to hand off to Bex now because she really was the brains behind this. Tom was the good looks, and I provided some narration. Go ahead, Bex.
Hello? Okay, I think it's on. Yeah, so I guess the idea was to try to, principally try and humanize climate change, because we cover the COP summit, we cover scientific reports, IPCC reports, which are all a really important part of the picture. At CNN, Elena Lee, our senior vice president, has this big series called Call to Earth. CNN's regularly reporting on solutions about climate change as well, and that's been a really great initiative. But for us, it was also trying to, look at the downside, I guess, and also draw out these stories, these people who've been so affected. So, talking to people who lost their families in the fires or lost their homes in the floods, but also using koalas to connect to people, because everybody loves koalas. And, they were one of the biggest victims of the wildfires 4 years ago. So, it's just trying to take climate coverage. All the journalists in the room will know how difficult it is to connect your viewers to, the climate crisis in a visual way. But Australia, is so beautiful. It was easy. Everywhere you look, it's some amazing scene, and it really did help to kind of capture what's at stake and remind people what we're trying to save here. But our secret weapon was Tom, who, people would say, like, do you have makeup for this shoot, or do you have a sound man or lighting? And I was like, no, we just have Tom. And I think you had 6 or 7 cameras on the go at different points. But I'll let you talk about the kind of challenges there.
We broke at least one, yeah. No, I mean, it was an amazing project to be involved in, but I remember when, we'd sort of been talking about it for a good 5-6 months. But then when it came down to do it, we didn't, like from my perspective, I didn't want to have all these preconceptions of how it would look. We wanted to do all of the interviews. I don't know if you noticed, most of the people that we spoke to, it was very sort of off the shoulder. They were showing us things. We didn't want too many sit-down interviews and that. And Australia, as you can see, it is one of the most beautiful places to film in. It is also one of the most challenging places. I mean, the sunlight for a photojournalist, the sunlight is so strong, right? And because we were only there for 2 weeks, we were not able to maximize, okay, we only do our interviews in the perfect morning light or the afternoon light. We were having to do them when these people were free. They were showing us places that they wanted to show us. So we had sunlight, we had wind. I mean, you saw Ivan up in the wind turbine. When we talked about that, we said, I thought, oh, that's great. What we'll do, we'll get him up there. And we sat together, we said, yeah, we'll get a drone shot. What I didn't think about was where they put this wind farm was probably one of the windiest places in Australia. So we had Ivan up at the top with no communication to us. We had this small walkie-talkie, which we couldn't hear him. And then we're thinking, oh, we'll just scream up to him, 90 meters in that kind of wind. And then the worst thing was we'd get the drone up there, we'd do we'd pull the drone back, and then I was realizing it was so windy that I couldn't get the drone back to us or back to the position to try again. So
you almost lost it.
I lost it, a lot of times. So we'd have to go all the way down to, I don't know, maybe 3 meters off the ground and kind of zigzag it back through the wind and then do it again. So that was just sort of one of the examples. And also, one thing that Ivan's not mentioning is 2 weeks before the trip, we did not know, well, we had not our PADI qualification, which is what you need to scuba dive. And I think it was Greenpeace said, right, you both have your PADI qualification. And we said, yeah. So we had to do, not only did we have to do a crash course in learning how to scuba dive, I had to do a course in learning how to film while scuba diving as well. And I think all of these things, I think the three of us, some of the best shots that we did and the best moments is when we really just got lost in it. So the time that we had on Lady Elliot, we could just go out and get onto the reef as many times as we wanted. And we would there'd be times where I'd look up, had no idea where these guys were, and we were just absolutely lost in, the beauty of the sharks, the turtles, the coral. And you forget that you're there to put together a project at the end of it. But as Beck said, Mun did a fantastic job in the edit, and I think it looks pretty good.
And then I think part of this was also to explain, here's Australia, one of the wealthier countries in the world, getting hammered by these disasters, where communities are literally being destroyed. And it has the resources to recover to a degree, and yet it's kind of sabotaging itself at the same time with the way its economy is structured, where it exports coal and natural gas, which contributes to the problem as well. So that was another element of choosing Australia for this kind of project, which we, as you saw, the host Anderson Cooper and this program Whole Story, and our colleague David Culver is here, and he's just filmed another project for the same program, right? On Chinese pandas being exported to Washington, D.C., right? So this is a kind of rare thing for the cable news network to be able to do these kind of long-form projects. With that, I think if you guys have any questions, camera questions, senior field producer questions, whatever, feel free to Lilith.
Australia?
If it is, then I'm in trouble. I mean, and so are the rest of these guys.
No, it's not. So Kangaroo Island is the only chlamydia-free population of koalas in Australia.
Was. Sorry.
And they had that. So Pearl had been brought up in captivity by Billy Dunlop, who had rescued her, and she was entirely handled by humans. So it depends on the state of Australia, but it's legal. Don't worry.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic presentation, and I'm very interested to know when you were on that little crescent of a sandbank island there. How long did it take to get that shot? Get him out there, get the drones up in there, get the boat away. You know,
Yeah.
what
So
was that?
yeah,
Logistics of that.
that was terrible. I came up with this.
really hot, and I was wearing a wetsuit. You have to wear a wetsuit because there are these jellyfish in the water that you'll have to go to the hospital. I think is what they warned us.
Yeah, there was a lot of, sort
be
of
incapacitated.
small stingers as well. It would have just been quite uncomfortable, I think, and yeah, there was some pretty bad jellyfish. But we had this idea, and the tide was working really well. So I said, let's put Ivan on this on the sandbar, and we didn't go to do that. We just saw this just before we left. And it was very, very hot. It was very, very windy. It didn't seem in those shots how windy it was, but it was very windy. So I was on a little boat initially with Bex, and we were trying to... Ivan had a radio mic on, and we would sync that audio with the drone shot. But because I didn't want the boat in the shot, the boat had to be quite a long way back, the radio mic went out of sync. So what we ended up doing is I went to the sandbar, and then I hid under a towel, which we sort of piled sand on, and then I couldn't really see what I was doing, and then he also couldn't hear me. But to answer your original question, I think we did about 6 or 7 takes, and there was, I don't know, man, how many were usable? We had one usable one, so yeah.
But I mean, the logistics of this, if Tom's operating a drone and he's going to start a movement, I need to speak in sync with that, but we cannot communicate directly. So Bex is on a little dinghy with Tom, who's under a towel, flying the drone. He can't hear me. I can't get a signal from him, so Bex would scream as if she was being tortured from hundreds of meters away, 3, 2, 1, go! And we were kind of winging it.
I kind of lost my voice after that.
Yeah.
Was it out in this, like, away from the land?
The thing about the Great Barrier Reef is big chunks of it are out of sight of land. That area where we were, you could see in the distance, probably a half hour, 40 minutes motorboat ride away, the mainland. But it's very, very far out. So those kids that were snorkeling out there, they're really out in the open ocean. It's crazy. And it gets to how wild the Great Barrier Reef is. We filmed there years ago in a previous kind of post-bleaching event. And you'd spend an hour in huge swell getting out to these places and lose sight of land. And I'll never forget that first experience coming out of the water, kind of, wow, this has been a great experience. You're sitting on this boat, and I watched a whale breach, right around the kind of swell, the reef, the waves there, and nobody else saw it. It was like it didn't happen. But that just gets to how wild this ecosystem is, and it's, yeah, and kind of the geographic proximity or distance it is from the mainland.
Congratulations on the shot, because it really looked good, and I didn't realize you were hiding under a towel.
I mean, thank you very much. I mean, another thing to point out is we had, on that part of the reef, we had from Cairns, we had 2 days. We budgeted for 2 days, and that was it. We had to luck out on those 2 days, and everyone that we were with, they said the conditions had not been as good as those 2 days in months. So you compare what we did there to someone like Nat Geo or BBC Earth. I mean, they would go and they would camp on the reef for months sometimes to get those days of conditions. So in that sense, we were, yes, it was windy and it was hot, but we were incredibly lucky. So.
Just one question about a technical question. How long did it take you to edit all your material?
Between the two of them, maybe a little. Was it like three weeks, right?
Yeah, I think the initial edit was about 3 weeks between Mun and I, and then everything went to New York, and they sort of do all of the graphics and a final kind of finishing touches. But yeah, it went back and forth a couple of times with our executives and stuff as well.
And will you do another climate change location? Will you do another part of the world, or?
We have been pitching, but no success yet. So
We-
watch this space.
And we did one a year prior on Indonesian Borneo, Kalimantan. Oh, was it? Okay, the COVID, sorry, I blacked out there. Yeah, we had a COVID patch there. But so we've been trying, and Elena has been supporting us to try to do these bigger projects at least once a year amidst all the other breaking news that we struggle with.
But in the middle of the edit, I just remembered Ivan and I went to the Philippines to do a South China Sea Coast Guard embed. And so Tom and Mun were kind of left to keep the edit rolling while we were kind of in the middle of a confrontation with China and the Philippines, a 17-hour boat ride from the nearest land, I think it was. But it was quite a short trip, but it was, yeah, we got back and these guys had kind of pretty much finished, I think, by that point.
Do you think the Australian government supports the activist or the coal miner?
That is a really good question. That's a really good question. I think we were showing. I believe that was the environment minister. Yeah. So on the one hand, the Australian government talks about needing to reduce carbon emissions, but as we pointed out in the project, they're also approving fresh new coal mines. And this is a problem that I think all societies struggle with, right? You could just stop a lot of this economic activity. You would have very serious problems with hunger and people being out of work. We know that you have to reduce this stuff if we're going to protect our cities from literally burning or getting flooded or these terrible things that are happening, these storms that are getting worse and worse. In the U.S., you just had a hurricane that flooded mountainous inland towns hours and hours drive from the ocean. Okay? I've never seen anything like that happen. I used to live in that state of North Carolina that just had historic flooding. And the town of Lismore that we filmed here was also a good hour's drive away from the ocean. So it just gives you a sense of this is not happening just in kind of coastal areas. But yeah, I think you get mixed messages from governments about their commitment to a transition, which everybody seems to admit now needs to happen, and also wanting to keep generating money for their economies, to keep winning the votes. I don't know if that really answers your question. It's complicated.
I think also the challenge for journalists reporting on climate is, they call it greenwashing, but there's also, there's different versions of that. And in Australia, there's a huge number of organizations fighting to help the reef. And it's a really, important part of the process. They're regrowing corals on land. They're doing all these almost like seed bank technology to try to save these species so that one day they can repopulate the reef. But it's also a bit of a distraction to a certain extent because billions of dollars going into these projects, they're not going into the energy transition. So I think there's a bit of distraction to a certain extent. It's also very important work, but it's difficult to navigate through those factors, I think, as a journalist.
But this gentleman wanted, sorry.
Thanks. It's really enjoyable documentary because I'm a documentary director as well. So I have some aesthetic problem to ask about. So every shoot is a little bit short, so cut very frequently. So I know it's the kind of the TV style, but why is the reason you want? Maybe you can use the longer footage to express more, but not by the narrative, the speaking way, the voice over. Have you ever tried to do some kind of the cinematic style in TV production? But after knowing that you've done this kind of project within 2 weeks, that is awesome. Yeah, I knew that it's really hard work. Yeah.
I'm going to blame these guys for the quick cuts, right? I'm going to throw them under the bus. You know, a funny thing when we were doing the edits, Tom, it was almost a joke because in the opening, one of the opening sequences of the coal trains, Tom had like 30 seconds of just coal trains going at one point, and we kind of trimmed it down. And some of the underwater sequences were also kind of long. But you guys can maybe answer about.
To be fair, I think Tom and Mun were trying to extend every shot, but we kept trying to get more information in. So I think it's often like a battle between the editorial that you want to get in and all the points you want to get across, especially because it's a newsy documentary. And then, you know, you have your cinematic artists like these two who kind of want to let everything breathe. And, you know, we did have some back and forth at different points. But
yeah, and I think, you know, going back to the point of a lot of documentaries, they will plan out and storyboard every sort of shot. And we didn't really, not only we didn't have that luxury, we didn't really want that luxury. We wanted the you know, the mayor of Lisbon to sort of take us around and show us, and for us and for him to sort of get excited about something, point it over there, and to capture that straight away. I certainly didn't want to go in with this idea of, okay, this is exactly how it should look. And I think, and that, you know, that does, because we are not nature documentary makers. We all do come from news backgrounds. But I do also think that the genres are starting to merge a little bit now, and you are seeing some, you know, with the with new technology, with things like drones, we are able to get some of those beautiful cinematic shots in. So, I mean, you raise a good point. Yeah, I actually wanted to extend a lot of the shots. I wanted to let it breathe. But the other side of it is, it was an hour slot. With Anderson Cooper's introduction, that turned out to be, what is it, 44 minutes. And we had a lot. I think we shot, do you know how many interviews we shot? 30 interviews, and probably 12 to 15 in the final. You know, and I was happy about that, because we really wanted to get the key characters in there. We wanted to sort of, we weren't going looking for sound bites. We wanted to go and talk to people and get their experience. And if we didn't feel that it was adding to the program, we didn't feel the need to put every single thing. I mean, there was places we went as well that we did not put in the documentary, and I stand by those choices as well. But yeah.
Just one more thing is, Whole Stories is for an international audience, but it's principally for a US audience. So there was that in mind as well when making this.
Thank you.
There was a lady there, and then we can go.
Thank you. That was, I want to say, inspiring and depressing, but we all know the topic is. And as an Australian, I know you said you made it for an overseas audience, so I was wondering how that's going to feel, because, of course, those of us in Hong Kong watch all of this so intensely and feel it. I'm interested in how long it took you to do the research, because it's such a complex area. There's so many things going on in the country that are contributing scientifically to the situation. And I think you really covered big stuff really succinctly and got across quite a lot of complex ideas in a very digestible way, I think, for people. I'm just interested to know how much of that was prior knowledge and how much that might have informed a quick research thing, or was this long researched and then quickly executed? Just curious.
It's a great question. I'm counting. So I think it got approved in the October, and then I went to Israel for a month, so I didn't do anything for a while after it was approved. And I think when I got back, it was maybe 8 weeks until we flew. Because this specific idea of going in the middle of February is because it was the hottest part of the year. And, all the scientists we were in touch with were saying this is going to be a big bleaching year. So the idea of seeing the bleaching unfold in real time was something, we thought could happen while we were there. So I want to say, maybe 6 to 8 weeks in total. But obviously I'd done quite a bit of research before the pitch. So maybe 8 weeks total. And thanks to Elena for allowing me off a bit of daily news to focus on that.
And then I think, Tom mentioned that we probably did about 30 interviews, and there's a learning process there. I mean, and these aren't quick. I think I have a bit of a reputation for very long interviews that will run a half hour or longer or whatever. But
an hour, definitely.
Okay, an hour, whatever.
Maybe 90 minutes.
And Tom will have 3 cameras going, so there's massive amounts of video. But the point being is we are learning as we go along. We're learning, meeting different people in the town of Lismore or in Newcastle and getting different perspectives. And kind of at the end of each day of work, we would tend to kind of discuss as a team, what did we learn today? Like, what were the things, the salient points that stuck out? And on these long drives also kind of, we're writing as we go along on a project like this and structuring this, which is kind of a really, I really enjoy that way of working with a team like this, where everybody's thinking, how are we going to present this? These complicated ideas. And David, you just shot a project like this. Did you show up knowing what was going to unfold on your panda trip?
No, I mean, generally, pandas are cute and cuddly, so there's that. But no, I think I do 20-minute interviews, so that's just my ADD idea of one thing to it. But I think you're right. You learn as you go, right? I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. That's why we do interviews. It's a conversation, and you're trying to take in as much of that as possible. And
the sense of discovery when something like the director of the port, the CEO of the port saying, here we think, bringing a little bit of a bias to the table, right? We think this guy's going to be defending the coal industry, and instead he's saying, we got to get out of this, which is not what I expected to hear from the guy. He's like, he was talking about alternative economic activity for the port. He's trying to plan for the future. And I didn't expect the environmentalists to go, no, I don't want this shut down. Let's wait a little while because we can't throw everybody out of their work. There are not easy solutions to these things. I think we'll go to Phil, but there was a woman in the back asking, waiting.
Hello. Thank you for the very impressive clip. My question is, I'm very curious to know if the renewable energy projects, are they run mainly by the private organizations, or are they getting subsidies from the government?
So the wind turbine, the wind farm that we went to was a private entity, Squadron Energy, which is, I think, Australia's second richest man, Andrew Forrest, owns that. So he made a lot of money in mining out in Western Australia. And then he's sort of become a climate evangelist and is opening wind farms all over the country. So it is private enterprise, but there's also, obviously the government has to allow these sites to open. And I think given, the Australian government is committing, especially in the new administration under Albanese, they have committed to these projects. So I think they will get some help in terms of being able to open these wind farms. But I think it is principally being led by private industry.
I think Mr. Booth had a question.
Yeah, I'm the other Mr. Booth.
This is Tom's dad.
It's my only claim to fame, being Tom's dad. Yeah. The film, I felt vacillated, and I'm sure it's quite deliberate and dramatic, between hope and beauty, and then deep depression. And I'm not sure how now I should feel. Do I have hope, or should I go home deeply depressed? When you came back and you were able to reflect on what you'd seen and what you'd done, how did you feel? Did you feel there is some hope? we've got a real chance, or did you feel, really, this is a very black time?
Both of them. I mean, both. We were seeing things dying around us, right? But then we saw these incredible examples of resilience and kind of rebirth on the part of nature and on the part of communities, right? And that gave me hope. But there is also a very depressing thing, reality. I've got a daughter who's 3 years old. My wife's in the back. We have another one on the way. And,
Ooh.
Woo. But they're probably not going to see what we saw. You know, and there were probably, and so how do you deal with that kind of reality? It sucks. I grew up in a part of New England, in the northeast of the U.S., where heavily wooded, and there are reservoirs, and it's kind of like a rural suburb with farms and stuff like that. But 100 years ago, there were no forests there. It was all farms. If you look at photography from 100 years prior, and now it's just forests as far as the eye can see. And one of the biggest risks is you could hit a deer driving. And last year, my wife and I were visiting, and there was a black bear walking around the neighbor's backyard, which I never grew up seeing. So I personally know examples of kind of that nature can come back, but that incredible scientist that we interviewed, Ove Hugh Goldberg, he has a difficult name, he predicted this and got death threats a quarter century ago. And he's like, we're learning from guys like him. He's saying it's going to take centuries for places like the Great Barrier Reef to recover. And look, Bex had just found this article by NOAA that said 77% of the world's reefs between 2023 and October now have suffered from bleaching with this global marine heat wave, which is a new record. The last one was 65% of reefs around the world. So this is an ecosystem that is probably going to go, to some degree, disappear in our lifetime.
Yeah, I think the stat is if we continue on the current trajectory, by 2050, only 1% of corals can survive in that heat. So unless something dramatically changes, that's where it's going. But also, the professor that Ivan mentioned, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, he said something really interesting that was, because he's probably one of the more apocalyptic scientists that we spoke to, because he's been seeing this coming for so long. But, so we asked him, did he have hope? And he said, 100%. He's like, human beings will get to the brink and then they will pull themselves back before it's too late. And he said that gets him out of bed every single morning to do his work, because that drives him knowing that at some point we will pull ourselves back from the brink.
And that professor, sir, you said you were going to go to COP, right? To the climate conference. He pointed out, and he'd gone to the one that was hosted by Qatar, right? Dubai, sorry, UAE. Oil, gas-producing country.
Before that, it was Sharm el-Sheikh, which was also...
Sure. So he'd gone to that, and he saw progress that in a decade, the discussion at these things, even by oil companies, had gone from kind of denying climate change to accepting that it is happening and that there needs to be a transition, that they're investing in the transition. The big question here, and I think that the CEO of the Port of Newcastle put it well, he's burning coal, mining coal is not illegal, right? Who is going to be the first to stop with the coal? Is it the consumer that's a country like Japan that is going to stop burning coal to keep its lights on? Or is it going to be a place like Australia that's going to stop digging it up and exporting it? And it's almost like everybody's waiting. Who's going to go first and start this process?
Australia also uses what is known as the drug dealer defense, which is we make cleaner coal than anybody else, which is actually true. And so their argument is if we don't sell it to Japan and China and South Korea, they'll buy it from other places, and it'll be a lot worse for the planet, which technically is true. So it's a very complicated debate.
Yeah, I just want. Sorry, this gentleman behind you didn't get a chance.
So I was wondering about all the interviews that you guys did that didn't end up making the final cut in the movie. Could you elaborate on all the notable figures and people that didn't end up making it in?
So it was mostly scientists who were working on solutions, which was something we'd gone into in our documentary 5-6 years ago. We'd done a lot about that, and it's a real, as mentioned, it's a really valid part of everything that needs to happen to protect the reef. But for our documentary, we wanted to focus very much on climate, and so the energy transition and focusing on that and how that was the biggest priority. That became pretty clear when we got back. But sometimes when you're planning this, you don't know which direction it's going to go in. So we would never normally plan to overshoot that much. But, you know, a lot of these, you know, we went to the Australian Institute of Marine Science, for example, and spent a whole day there. And I think we used 20 seconds of it, you know, after doing 3 or 4 interviews. But it wasn't that they weren't compelling or interesting interviews. And some of their interviews actually went into some other CNN content and digital stuff. So they weren't wasted per se, but it was, you know, it's very difficult when you've got that much to get into 45 minutes to keep sort of diverting the audience in different directions. So we kind of had to keep it in this continuous narrative focused on climate change rather than... Does that answer your question?
And there was one example that Bex and I discussed earlier today. We went with an environmental organization that was kind of doing a project with children to document the reef. And we then interviewed multiple people from that organization who didn't want to talk about bleaching, which we were witnessing. So part of, you know, being a journalist and interviewing people is that different people have their own agendas. They have their own narratives that they want to deliver. And even an environmental organization might not want to talk about a climate disaster because there's a different narrative they want to promote. And that's just one example. You know, that didn't happen a lot, but it is something that happens in journalism that sometimes we struggle with.
And then you say sorry.
And thanks for the boat. I think we're kind of hitting around 7 o'clock, so I think we're going to wind down if that's okay, because some people... Alice, do you want to...
Thank you. I'm sure you, I think our guest will stay around a little while to answer more questions if possible, but it is 7. We want to get you out to dinner. I'm sure you are starving, but what a great, I want to congratulate all 3 of you. Rebecca and Tom, and Lynn, thank you. We hope to collaborate. I mean, this is a topic that we're all very interested in, and I'm hopeful, and because people are interested in the topic, I think we will all want to make a difference and learn. And I think the most important thing is if we learn, we can do something about it. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for a wonderful project, and congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you.